My husband's best friend humiliated me at his rehearsal dinner by telling stories about his ex-girlfriend while staring at me, so I exposed that he lied to his fiancée about not having a bachelor party, and months later she sent me screenshots revealing he was actually in love with me all along. I ruined someone's wedding rehearsal dinner. The wedding got called off because of what I said. A lot of people think I'm terrible. I don't regret it. My husband is Daniel, 32M. I'm Emma, 31F. We met at a college party when I was visiting my cousin in the city. Daniel grew up in Riverside Heights, which is about 2 hours from where I lived. We didn't know each other before that party. My cousin knew his roommate and dragged me along. Daniel was standing alone near the kitchen looking uncomfortable. I asked him if he knew anyone there and he said just his roommate. We spent the rest of the night talking about how neither of us liked crowded parties. We exchanged numbers that night. Our schools were only 40 minutes apart, so we started seeing each other on weekends. After graduation, I got a job in Riverside Heights and moved there. We got married 3 years ago. We bought a house in the same neighborhood where Daniel grew up. His parents still live 2 streets over. Daniel had a best friend named Marcus Webb, 33M. They grew up next door to each other. Their parents were friends before they were born. They went to the same schools their entire lives until college. Marcus went to a different state for university and stayed there for work after graduating. He came back to Riverside Heights once or twice a month to visit his parents. I met Marcus at a barbecue at Daniel's parents' house about a month after Daniel and I started dating. Marcus shook my hand and said it was nice to meet me. Then he barely spoke to me the rest of the afternoon. When I tried to join conversations, he would give short answers and look away. I thought maybe he was shy around new people. This pattern continued every time I saw him. At Daniel's graduation, Marcus congratulated him and talked about their college visits together. He didn't acknowledge that I was standing right there. At family dinners when Marcus was in town, he would talk to Daniel's parents and Daniel but act like I wasn't in the room. If I asked him a direct question, he would give a one-word answer and turn back to Daniel. I asked Daniel about it after the first year. He said Marcus took a long time to warm up to people. He said Marcus was like that with everyone he didn't grow up with. I let it go because Marcus only visited once or twice a month and I didn't want to make Daniel choose between us. When we got engaged, Marcus was Daniel's best man. At the wedding, he gave a speech about their childhood and high school years. He mentioned Daniel's ex-girlfriend from high school, Laura Santos. He told a story about how Daniel and Laura went to prom together and got lost driving home. Everyone laughed. I sat there at the head table. Marcus didn't mention me once in the entire speech except to say congratulations at the very end. After the wedding, Marcus went back to his city. Things were fine because I didn't have to see him often. Then our first wedding anniversary came up last year. Daniel and I took the day off work. We planned to stay home, cook dinner together, and watch movies. We don't like going to crowded restaurants on special occasions. The morning of our anniversary, Marcus sent Daniel a text saying happy anniversary. Daniel showed me the text and said it was nice of Marcus to remember. That afternoon, Marcus called Daniel. I was in the room so I heard Daniel's side of the conversation. Marcus asked if Daniel wanted to grab drinks that night. Daniel said no, it was our anniversary and we had plans. Marcus said he was only in town for one night and really wanted to catch up. Daniel said they could meet up the next day instead. Marcus said he was driving back early the next morning. Daniel said sorry, maybe next time. We were halfway through cooking dinner when the doorbell rang. Daniel opened it and Marcus was standing there holding a wrapped box. He had a beer bottle in his other hand and his face was red. He walked in without being invited and put the box on our coffee table. He said he wanted to drop off an anniversary gift in person since Daniel wouldn't come out for drinks. Daniel looked uncomfortable. He told Marcus thank you and that he didn't need to come all the way over. Marcus insisted we open it right then. He sat down on our couch and waited. Daniel opened the box. Inside was a framed photograph of him and Laura Santos from high school. They were wearing matching jerseys at what looked like a football game. Laura had her arm around Daniel's shoulders and they were both smiling at the camera. I stared at it. Daniel stared at it. Marcus started laughing. He said he found it while going through old photos at his parents' house and thought it would be funny to give it to us. He said it was a joke. Daniel put the frame back in the box. He told Marcus this wasn't appropriate. Marcus said Daniel needed to relax and learn to take a joke. He finished his beer and left. We tried to continue our anniversary dinner but neither of us had much appetite. Daniel put the box in the garage. We didn't talk about it that night. The next day, I told Daniel we needed to discuss Marcus. I said this wasn't just awkward social behavior. Marcus deliberately gave us a photo of Daniel's ex-girlfriend on our wedding anniversary. Daniel said Marcus had poor judgment sometimes but didn't mean harm. I asked how many times someone could have poor judgment before it was just malice. Daniel didn't have an answer. I told him about all the times Marcus had ignored me or been cold to me over the past 5 years. Daniel said he never noticed it was that bad. I said that was because Marcus was friendly when it was just the two of them. Daniel sat there for a long time. Then he said he would talk to Marcus about boundaries. The next week, Marcus called Daniel. He said sorry for the anniversary gift. He said some of his old high school friends convinced him it would be funny. He said he didn't realize it would upset us. Daniel accepted the apology. Marcus asked if I was mad. Daniel said we were both fine now. Marcus said good because he wanted us to come to his wedding. That's when we found out Marcus got engaged to a woman named Jennifer Park, 29F. They had been dating for 2 years. The wedding was planned for 3 months later back in Riverside Heights. Marcus said Jennifer wanted to get married in her hometown, but he convinced her that Riverside Heights was better because all his family was here. Daniel was happy for Marcus. I said congratulations when Marcus asked to talk to me on the phone. He thanked me and said he hoped we could move past the anniversary thing. I said sure. The wedding rehearsal dinner was on a Friday night at a restaurant downtown. Jennifer's family had flown in from across the country. I met Jennifer for the first time that night. She seemed nice but out of place. She mentioned 3 times that she didn't know anyone except Marcus and his parents. Jennifer and I ended up talking in the corner while Marcus held court with his groomsmen and Daniel. She told me about how they met at Marcus's company. She said she always imagined getting married near her family, but Marcus wanted it here. She said they made a deal. She agreed to have the wedding in Riverside Heights if they didn't do bachelor or bachelorette parties. She said she hated that tradition and thought it was disrespectful. I said that seemed like a fair compromise. She said she was glad because the idea of those parties made her uncomfortable. She said Marcus agreed immediately when she proposed the deal. She seemed proud of that. Marcus came over and took Jennifer's hand. He said it was time for his speech. Everyone gathered around. Marcus talked about growing up in Riverside Heights. He talked about playing basketball in his driveway with Daniel. He talked about their first day of high school. Then he told a story about Daniel and Laura Santos. He said they used to sneak off during lunch period and make out under the football bleachers. He said the gym teacher caught them once and they got detention for a week. Everyone laughed. Marcus looked directly at me while he told the story and smirked. I stood there. Daniel looked at the floor. Jennifer laughed along with everyone else because she didn't know who Laura was. After the speech, I pulled Daniel aside. I asked him about the bachelor party. He said Marcus asked him to go 2 weeks ago but he couldn't because of a work deadline. I asked where it was. He said it was at a casino about an hour away. I asked when. He said last Saturday night. I walked back to where Marcus and Jennifer were standing with the groomsmen. I spoke loudly enough that several people nearby could hear. I said, thank you to Marcus for understanding when Daniel couldn't make it to his bachelor party last weekend. I said I knew Daniel felt bad about missing it. Jennifer turned to look at me. She asked what bachelor party. I said the one Marcus had last Saturday. She looked at Marcus. She asked him what I was talking about. Marcus said I must be confused. He said they agreed not to have those parties. I said I must have misunderstood then. I apologized and said I thought Daniel mentioned a party at a casino. I said maybe it was a different friend's party. One of the groomsmen looked at his shoes. Another one coughed and walked away. Jennifer watched them. She asked Marcus again if he had a bachelor party. Marcus said no. Jennifer pulled out her phone. She told Marcus to unlock his. He said that was ridiculous and she was believing a misunderstanding. She said if there was nothing to hide then he should show her. He said he wasn't going to be interrogated at his own rehearsal dinner. She started crying. She walked out of the restaurant. Marcus turned to me. He said I had no right to interfere in his relationship. He said I was bitter and insecure. Daniel stepped between us. He said we should all calm down. I said we were leaving. Daniel and I walked out. In the parking lot, we saw Marcus and Jennifer arguing next to their car. Jennifer was crying and yelling. Marcus was waving his hands and talking fast. We got in our car and left. The wedding was supposed to be on Sunday. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel got a text from Marcus's brother saying the wedding was postponed. No other details. That night, people started messaging me on social media. Marcus's high school friends called me names. His mom sent a long message about how I destroyed her son's happiness. People I had never met were commenting on old photos calling me bitter and jealous. I blocked everyone connected to Marcus. Daniel was getting messages too. His oldest friend group was split. Some people thought Marcus deserved what happened. Others thought I should have minded my own business. Daniel and I talked that night. He said he was done with Marcus. He said our anniversary gift should have been the end of it. He said the rehearsal dinner story about Laura was the final proof that Marcus didn't respect me or our marriage. He blocked Marcus on everything. Update 1: Marcus found a way to contact Daniel through an email address Daniel used for old online gaming accounts. The email was long. I read it because Daniel showed it to me. Marcus said Daniel was making a mistake. He said I was controlling and manipulative. He said I drove a wedge between them on purpose. He said I couldn't handle that Daniel had a life before me. He said I was the worst person Daniel ever brought into his life. He said Daniel would wake up one day and realize he was trapped with someone who isolated him from everyone who really cared about him. The email had no mention of the bachelor party or why he lied to Jennifer. It was entirely about me. Daniel wrote back from that same email account. He said he spent 5 years watching Marcus treat me like I didn't exist. He said the anniversary gift was cruel and the rehearsal dinner story was humiliating. He said the bachelor party wasn't about me, it was about Marcus lying to his fiancée. He said real friends don't disrespect each other's spouses for years and then call the spouse manipulative when consequences happen. He said not to contact him again. Marcus didn't respond to that email. Daniel deleted the old gaming account. Jennifer sent me a friend request on social media. I accepted it. She messaged me asking if we could talk. I said yes. We met at a coffee shop near my work. She looked like she hadn't slept much. She said the wedding was officially cancelled. She said she gave Marcus a chance to explain everything after the rehearsal dinner and he kept changing his story. First he said there was no party. Then he said it was just dinner with the guys. Then he admitted it was at a casino but nothing bad happened. She said she asked to see his phone and his bank statements. He refused. She said she couldn't marry someone who lied to her face and made a deal he never intended to keep. She asked me about Marcus and Daniel's friendship. I told her everything. The years of being ignored. The anniversary gift. The story about Laura at the rehearsal dinner. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said Marcus told her that Daniel and I got together while Daniel was still dating Laura. She said Marcus said I was obsessed with Daniel in high school and broke up his relationship. I told her I never lived in Riverside Heights until after college. I told her I met Daniel when we were both in our 20s. She put her head in her hands. She said Marcus talked about Laura constantly. He said she was good for Daniel. He said Daniel changed after they broke up. He said I was nothing like her. She said she always thought it was weird how much Marcus brought up his best friend's high school girlfriend, but Marcus said they were all part of the same friend group. Jennifer said she moved across the country for Marcus last year. She said she quit her job and left her family because he said Riverside Heights was where he wanted to build their life. She said now she understood that Riverside Heights wasn't about her. It was about staying close to Daniel and Daniel's life. She said she was moving back home. She said her parents were helping her find a new job. She thanked me for speaking up at the rehearsal dinner. She said she would rather know before the wedding than after. We stayed in touch after that. Not close friends but friendly. She posted photos a few months later showing she moved back to her hometown and started a new job. Daniel's parents asked us over for dinner about a month after everything happened. Marcus's parents were there too. It was awkward. Marcus's mom said I humiliated her son in front of his fiancée and her family. She said I was vindictive. Daniel's mom said Marcus humiliated me first at the rehearsal dinner. She said Marcus had been cold to me for years and she noticed but didn't say anything because it wasn't her place. Marcus's dad asked Daniel if he was really going to throw away 30 years of friendship over a misunderstanding. Daniel said it wasn't a misunderstanding. He said Marcus gave us a photo of his ex-girlfriend on our anniversary as a joke. He said Marcus told a story about that same ex-girlfriend at his rehearsal dinner while looking at me. He said those weren't accidents. The dinner ended early. We haven't seen Marcus's parents since. Daniel's parents stay in touch with them but keep us separate from any gatherings where they might be present. Update 2: Marcus moved back to Riverside Heights. Daniel heard from his brother that Marcus quit his job and was living with his parents temporarily. No one knew if he was looking for work here or planning to move somewhere else. I saw him once at the grocery store. I was in the cereal aisle and he walked around the corner. We made eye contact. He turned around and walked the other way. I finished my shopping and left. Daniel ran into him at the gas station a few weeks after that. Marcus was filling up his car. Daniel said Marcus looked at him and then got in his car and drove away with the gas pump still in his tank. The gas station attendant had to run out and stop him. Jennifer messaged me one evening. She said she needed to tell me something. She said she and Marcus had one final conversation before she moved away and he said things that she thought I should know. She sent screenshots of text messages between her and Marcus. In them, Marcus admitted he never liked me. He said I wasn't good enough for Daniel. He said I was boring and plain and he didn't understand what Daniel saw in me. Then there was a message that said he knew I was interested in him when Daniel first introduced us. He said I used to look at him when I thought he wasn't paying attention. He said I only started dating Daniel because Marcus wasn't available. He said he could tell I wished it was him instead. I read the messages twice. None of it was true. I was never interested in Marcus. I avoided him at gatherings because he made it clear he didn't want to talk to me. Jennifer said Marcus told her this after she asked why he treated me badly for years. She said he claimed it was because he needed to keep distance from me since I had feelings for him and he didn't want to encourage me or disrespect Daniel. She said she didn't believe him even when he said it because it made no sense with his other behavior. Then she sent another screenshot. In this one, Marcus said he had feelings for me since the first time Daniel brought me around. He said he couldn't stand watching his best friend with someone he wanted. He said every time he saw us together it made him hate Daniel a little bit. He said that's why he moved away for work. He said it was better not to see us. Jennifer said Marcus told her he thought his feelings would go away after he met her. He said they did for a while. Then when she agreed to move to Riverside Heights and get married there, he started seeing us more often and everything came back. She said that's when he started acting distant with her too. The last screenshot was Marcus saying he sabotaged the rehearsal dinner on purpose because he wanted to ruin the wedding. He said if he couldn't have what he wanted, then he didn't want to pretend to be happy anymore. He said giving us the anniversary gift was his way of testing how far he could push before something broke. He said he knew Jennifer would find out about the bachelor party eventually and he didn't care. I showed everything to Daniel. He read through all the screenshots without saying anything. Then he handed my phone back to me. He said Marcus was never his friend. He said real friends don't spend years resenting you for being happy. He said he wasted too much of his life making excuses for someone who didn't care about him. Daniel messaged Jennifer and thanked her for sending the screenshots. He said knowing the truth helped him stop feeling guilty about their friendship ending. She said she was glad she could help. Some of Daniel's other friends from high school started reaching out after Marcus moved back. They heard different versions of what happened. Daniel told them the full story and showed them the screenshots with Jennifer's permission. Most of them said they weren't surprised. A few mentioned that Marcus had always been possessive of Daniel's time and got moody when Daniel dated someone seriously. One friend said Marcus talked badly about Laura after she and Daniel broke up, calling her clingy and annoying even though he used to hang out with both of them all the time. Daniel realized Marcus had a pattern of turning on people who got close to him. He said it explained why Marcus didn't stay in touch with anyone from college or keep friends at his old job. He said Marcus only maintained the friendship with him because they had history, but even that wasn't healthy. Update 3: Marcus got a job at a company about 40 minutes from Riverside Heights. Daniel heard through his brother that Marcus was dating someone new. We didn't ask for details and didn't want them. Daniel's friendship circle reorganized itself. The people who stayed in touch with Marcus stopped inviting Daniel to group events. Daniel said he was fine with it. He said most of them were friends from high school that he only stayed close to because of Marcus anyway. He started spending more time with coworkers and people we knew as a couple. Marcus's parents sent Daniel's parents a Christmas card. Inside was a note saying they missed seeing Daniel and hoped he was doing well. They didn't mention me. Daniel's mom told us about it and asked if we wanted her to reach out to them. Daniel said no. He said there was nothing to say. Jennifer got engaged to someone from her hometown. She posted about it on social media. I commented congratulations and she thanked me. She said she was glad everything worked out the way it did because she never would have met her new fiancé if she had stayed with Marcus. I still get occasional messages from people connected to Marcus. Usually, it's someone who heard a version of the story and wants to tell me I'm wrong or cruel. I delete them without responding. Daniel and I are fine. We don't talk about Marcus unless something comes up that requires us to. We bought new furniture for the living room and redecorated. We took a vacation to the coast. We celebrated our second anniversary at home again with no interruptions. Some people think I should have kept quiet at the rehearsal dinner. They say it wasn't my business. They say I ended a relationship that might have worked out if Jennifer didn't know about the party. I think Jennifer deserved to know the person she was about to marry lied to her and made promises he didn't keep. I think she deserved to make a choice based on the truth. Marcus made his choices. He chose to treat me badly for years. He chose to give us that anniversary gift. He chose to tell that story at his rehearsal dinner. He chose to have a bachelor party after promising Jennifer he wouldn't. All of those were his decisions. I just made sure Jennifer had the information she needed. I don't regret speaking up. I don't regret the wedding getting cancelled. I don't regret Marcus moving back here and having to rebuild his life. Those are all consequences of his own actions. I was just the person who said something out loud that was already true. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2: I had a one-night stand that ended in tears. 8 months later the guy was my new coworker and told everyone about what happened that night, making my new job a complete nightmare. I, 25F, need to get this off my chest because I'm not sure how much longer I can stay at this job with the way things are going. Last summer was probably one of the worst periods of my life. Within the span of 3 weeks, I lost my apartment because the building was being converted to condos, had to move back in with my parents at 25, and then got laid off from my marketing job when the company downsized. The layoff hit me particularly hard since I had been there for almost 3 years and really thought I had a future with the company. Moving back home wasn't ideal. My parents live in a small town about 40 minutes outside the city, which made job hunting much harder. My old friends had mostly moved away after college, and I spent most days scrolling through job sites, sending out resumes, and staring at the walls of my childhood bedroom. After 2 months of this routine, I barely wanted to get out of bed in the mornings. The constant rejections from job applications made everything worse. One night, after yet another failed interview, my college roommate Zoe called me. We hadn't spoken in months, but somehow the conversation turned to my non-existent dating life. She insisted that I needed to get back out there and downloaded Tinder on my phone while we were on a video call. I hadn't dated anyone since my ex and I broke up a year earlier, and honestly, I wasn't interested. But Zoe was persistent, and I reluctantly agreed to give it a try, mostly to get her to stop bringing it up. The first few days on the app were exactly what I expected, weird messages and guys looking for hookups. But then I matched with Nathan, 25M. His profile seemed normal, he had a job in finance, liked hiking, and had a cute dog. We chatted for a few days, and everything seemed fine. He suggested meeting up at a craft beer festival that weekend. I agreed, thinking that at least it would get me out of the house. The beer festival was crowded, which made me nervous at first. I spotted Nathan near the entrance, and he looked just like his pictures. He greeted me with a quick hug, and we headed inside. The first hour went well. We tried different beers, talked about our jobs, or in my case, my former job, and discovered we both grew up watching the same obscure cartoon. The conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. As the afternoon went on, we kept sampling more and more beers. I hadn't eaten much that day, and the alcohol hit me harder than expected. Nathan seemed to be keeping pace with me, and soon we were both laughing too loudly at each other's jokes. The festival was ending, and Nathan suggested going back to his apartment to continue the night. Against my better judgment, I agreed. His apartment was nice, much nicer than what I could have afforded on my old salary. We sat on his couch and put on some music. One thing led to another, and soon we were in his bedroom. I initiated things, partly because I was drunk and partly because it had been so long since I'd been with anyone. The details are fuzzy, but I remember it being fine, nothing special. What happened next is why I'm writing this post. As soon as we finished, something inside me just broke. I started crying. Not just a few tears, but full-on sobbing. Nathan froze, clearly having no idea what to do. He asked if I was okay, if he had hurt me, but I couldn't even explain what was happening. I wasn't sad about him or anything he did, it was like all the frustration and disappointment from the past few months came pouring out at once. I couldn't stop. Nathan awkwardly patted my shoulder and asked if I wanted to go home or stay the night. I mumbled something about staying since I was too drunk to drive and didn't want to call my parents for a ride. He nodded and went to get me some water. When he came back, I had calmed down somewhat but was still sniffling. He handed me the water and some tissues, then went to the living room, saying he needed to check something. I fell asleep almost immediately. When I woke up the next morning, my head was pounding, and Nathan wasn't in the bed. I found my clothes scattered on the floor and got dressed as quickly as possible. When I walked into the living room, Nathan was watching TV with the volume low. He didn't look upset, just uncomfortable. He offered me coffee, which I declined, and then he drove me back to my car at the festival grounds. We barely spoke during the ride. When he dropped me off, he gave me an awkward side hug and said it was nice meeting me. 3 days later, I texted him, asking how he was doing. He didn't respond. A week after that, I sent one final message apologizing for the crying and explaining that I had been going through a tough time. Again, no response. I deleted his number and the app after that, figuring I needed to work on myself before trying to date again. Fast forward 8 months. Things had finally turned around for me. I had found a job as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company in the city. The salary was decent, and the work seemed interesting. I had moved out of my parents' house into a small apartment with a roommate. I had even started dating someone new, Max, who I met, ironically, on Tinder again after giving it another shot. We had been together for 3 months, and everything was going well. My first day at the new job started like any other. My supervisor showed me around the office, introduced me to the team, and set me up at my desk. Around lunchtime, I headed to the break room to eat the sandwich I had packed. As I walked in, I saw a familiar face, Nathan. He was sitting with a group of people, but our eyes met immediately. The recognition was instant for both of us. He looked away quickly, and I nearly dropped my lunch. I managed to make it through the rest of the day by avoiding the break room and keeping to myself. But by the end of the week, it was clear that something was off. People whispered when I walked by, and conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Finally, another new employee, Diane, invited me to lunch. Over sandwiches at a nearby cafe, she told me what everyone was saying. According to Diane, Nathan had told the entire marketing department about our Tinder date, the beer festival, going back to his place, and my crying episode afterward. Worse, he had described me as the crazy Tinder girl who broke down after a one-night stand. The story had spread throughout the office, and now I was the subject of office gossip before I had even learned everyone's names. The next 2 weeks were miserable. I caught people staring at me during meetings. When I walked into the break room, conversations would suddenly shift to work topics. Once, Max came to pick me up for lunch, and I overheard Nathan and another coworker snickering as we walked out together. Every day felt like walking through a minefield of judgments and whispers. I don't know what to do. I can't quit, finding this job took months, and I need the money. I can't report Nathan to HR because technically he hasn't done anything wrong, he's just telling a true story. But I can't work like this either, feeling like everyone is judging me based on one embarrassing night from my past. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How do I make this go away? Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. The advice ranged from quit immediately to confront Nathan directly, but most people suggested I keep my head high, focus on my work, and prove them all wrong. That's what I decided to do. A few people asked about Max and whether he knew about the situation. I had actually told him about the Nathan incident shortly after we started dating, long before I knew we'd end up working together. Max was understanding about it, pointing out that everyone has embarrassing dating stories. When I told him about the office situation, he was furious on my behalf but agreed that staying professional was the best approach. The past 2 weeks have been a roller coaster. Following the advice I received, I threw myself into my work. I arrived early, stayed late when needed, and volunteered for extra projects. In meetings, I made sure to contribute thoughtful ideas rather than sitting quietly. When coworkers made small talk, I engaged pleasantly without bringing up anything personal. It wasn't easy, and some days I went home and stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering if I should just quit. Slowly, things started to change. Last week, my supervisor praised my work on a client presentation. 2 days later, one of the senior marketing managers asked for my input on a campaign. By the end of the week, I was invited to join a few coworkers for happy hour, not including Nathan, thankfully. The turning point came yesterday. My supervisor assigned Nathan and me to work on a project together, a comprehensive marketing plan for a new client. My first instinct was to ask for a different assignment, but I decided against it. Running away would only reinforce the crazy girl narrative. The project required us to stay late last night to finalize the presentation for today's meeting. It was just the two of us in the office after 6 p.m., the first time we'd been alone since that night last summer. For the first hour, we worked in awkward silence, communicating only when absolutely necessary about the project details. Around 7:30, our presentation document crashed as we were uploading the final version. Without thinking, I blurted out that if the file was corrupted, I might actually burst into tears again. It was a terrible joke, but to my surprise, Nathan laughed. That broke the ice. As we waited for IT to help recover the file, Nathan apologized if he or anyone else had made me uncomfortable at work. He then explained his side of the story. Apparently, Nathan had just downloaded Tinder the week we matched. I was the first person he ever met through the app. His friends at work, particularly in the finance department where he worked, had encouraged him to try online dating after his girlfriend of 4 years moved to another city for a job opportunity. Those same friends were the ones who suggested the beer festival for our date. When Nathan came to work the Monday after our date, his friends naturally asked how it went. He told them what happened, the beer, going back to his place, and my unexpected reaction. It became something of an inside joke among his friends, Nathan's disastrous first Tinder date. He never expected to see me again, much less work with me. When I showed up as a new employee, he didn't immediately spill the beans to everyone. But since it was obvious we recognized each other, people asked questions. When he referred to me as that Tinder girl, those who already knew the story put the pieces together. This was actually a relief to hear. I had imagined Nathan maliciously spreading the story when I started, but in reality, the damage had been done months ago when I wasn't even part of the company. It didn't make the situation less embarrassing, but it did make it feel less personal. Nathan mentioned that after working with me for the past month, he could tell I was nothing like that night. He hoped there were no hard feelings between us. I assured him there weren't. I briefly explained that I had been going through a rough patch last summer, the job loss, moving back home, and that my behavior that night wasn't typical for me. Nathan nodded and said he understood completely. His long-distance relationship had ended badly right before he downloaded Tinder, so he was in a similar mindset when we met. We weren't exactly friends by the end of the conversation, but the air felt clearer. As for Diane, the coworker who told me about the gossip, Nathan explained that she had only joined the company 2 months before me. She wasn't around when the original story circulated last summer, so from her perspective, it seemed like fresh gossip rather than old news being rehashed. Today, Nathan and I presented our project to the client, who loved our ideas. My supervisor was impressed with our work and has already assigned us another project together. The whispers seem to have died down, or maybe I'm just not noticing them anymore. I'm not saying everything is perfect. There are still awkward moments, and I doubt Nathan and I will ever be close friends. But the situation feels manageable now, and I can focus on building my career rather than worrying about office gossip. Update 2: It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed. The work environment has improved significantly since Nathan and I cleared the air. The whispers have stopped completely, and I've been included in more team activities and projects. My supervisor even mentioned considering me for a small promotion if things continue going well. Nathan and I have established a professional, if somewhat cautious, working relationship. We've completed 2 more projects together successfully. While we still avoid discussing anything personal, the tension has disappeared. Sometimes we even grab coffee together when working on deadlines. However, last week brought an unexpected complication. Our company holds a quarterly team building retreat at a lakeside conference center about 2 hours from the city. It's a 2-day event with workshops during the day and social activities in the evening. Attendance is mandatory for all employees. I was nervous about the retreat, especially since alcohol would be involved during the evening events. The last thing I wanted was for people to be reminded of the crying Tinder girl story if I had a glass of wine. Max was supportive, telling me to just be myself and remember how much progress I'd made at work. The first day of the retreat went well. The workshops were actually interesting, and I contributed to group discussions without feeling self-conscious. That evening, There was a company dinner followed by drinks and games in the lodge's main hall. I stuck to soda and participated in trivia and charades with my department. Around 10 p.m., I stepped outside for some fresh air. The lodge had a large deck overlooking the lake, and I spent a few minutes enjoying the view and the quiet. As I was about to go back inside, I heard people approaching and recognized Nathan's voice. He was with 3 other colleagues from the finance department. I was partially hidden by a large planter, and they didn't see me as they settled into chairs nearby. They had clearly been drinking and were talking loudly. One of them mentioned something about Tinder disasters, and my stomach dropped. Nathan laughed along as his friend recounted his own bad date story. Then another asked Nathan if he'd tried again with the marketing girl now that she'd cleaned up her act. Nathan's response shocked me. He told them to drop it, saying that the story had gotten way out of hand and that he regretted ever mentioning it. He said that I was a good colleague and that everyone needed to move on from ancient history. One of his friends pressed, asking if he was catching feelings for me. Nathan firmly stated that he respected me as a coworker and was happy in his own relationship. Apparently, he had started dating someone new a few weeks ago. I quietly slipped back inside without them noticing. For the rest of the evening, I felt strangely relieved. Not only was Nathan defending me when I wasn't around, but he also seemed genuinely remorseful about how the whole situation had played out. The next morning, during a team-building exercise, Nathan and I were randomly paired together. As we worked on the task, he mentioned that he'd been meaning to tell me something. He explained that he'd spoken to several people in the office, particularly those who had been spreading the story, and asked them to stop. He didn't know if I'd noticed, but he wanted me to know he was trying to make things right. I thanked him for his efforts and admitted that I had overheard his conversation on the deck the previous night. He seemed embarrassed but didn't deny anything he'd said. We agreed that we both wanted to move forward professionally without the shadow of that night hanging over us. The retreat ended on a positive note, and the ride back to the city with my coworkers felt comfortable for the first time. When we returned to the office on Monday, there was a noticeably different atmosphere. People were treating me like any other colleague, not as a curiosity or the subject of gossip. Max was pleased to hear about the developments when I told him that evening. He suggested we celebrate the improved work situation with dinner at my favorite restaurant. During the meal, he mentioned that he had been worried about how the situation was affecting me and was glad to see me happier. As things stand now, I'm cautiously optimistic about my future at the company. The work itself is challenging and interesting, and the office environment has become much more supportive. Nathan and I will probably never be close friends, but we've found a way to work together effectively. Most importantly, I've stopped dreading going to work each morning. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to provide a final conclusion to this saga. So much has changed that it's hard to believe the original situation ever happened. The office environment has completely normalized. My past with Nathan is old news, and newer employees don't even know about it. I've built solid working relationships with most of my colleagues and even formed a few friendships. My supervisor has become something of a mentor, giving me opportunities to lead smaller projects and inviting me to client meetings. As for Nathan, our professional relationship continued to improve. We were assigned to several more projects together and established an effective working partnership. About a month ago, he accepted a position with another company, a significant promotion that he couldn't pass up. Before he left, he stopped by my desk to wish me well and mentioned that working together had been much better than he expected. His departure was entirely about career advancement and had nothing to do with our past. With Nathan gone, any lingering awkwardness disappeared completely. I was assigned to take over some of his client relationships, which was a vote of confidence from management. 2 weeks ago, I received that promotion my supervisor had hinted about, with a modest raise and more responsibility. Max and I are still together and recently started talking about moving in together when both our leases end in a few months. He's been supportive throughout this entire experience, never making me feel judged for what happened before we met. Looking back at everything that happened, I realize how much unnecessary stress I put myself through in those early weeks at the job. The situation wasn't ideal, but my fear of judgment amplified everything. Once I focused on proving myself through my work rather than worrying about what others thought, things improved rapidly. The experience taught me a lot about workplace dynamics and how to handle uncomfortable situations professionally. It also showed me that most people are more understanding than I gave them credit for, especially when they see someone making a genuine effort. For anyone else dealing with awkward workplace situations or past embarrassments that follow them, my advice would be simple: acknowledge it if necessary, then move forward with your head high. Focus on your work, be consistently professional, and give people the chance to form new impressions based on who you are now, not who you were or what happened in the past. I won't be posting any more updates since there's nothing left to report. The Tinder incident feels like it happened to a different person in another lifetime. These days, I'm focused on my career, my relationship, and the future, not a tearful night that's now far behind me.